You've got a very interesting side hustle, which you make quite good money from on the weekends.
One of the businesses I have is actually my main business now. It's done very well, I sell Lego minifigures. I was listening to podcasts while I was finishing the landscaping of the Seaford house. That piqued my interest about resi, but then by the time I was ready to purchase investment property, the interest rates obviously went up. The numbers didn't work anymore. It didn't really make sense to me. Then I got onto, commercial property. I left my full-time job. I started my own business. To me, it was all about cash flow, trying to get the growth from it. And commercial property looked like it could do that. It could self-sustain itself.
Boring in commercial is good. Boring in vanilla is good. Right asset in the right location.
We always get it. You send them a property and they go, I'm not blown away by it. I'm like, exactly. This is what we want.
Holy shit. That means my property's just gone up like almost 100 grand within 2 months. Or 2-3 months, and I'm like, I'm working my ass off on my business for 10 plus years trying to get a stock level, to get a cash flow, to try to get even a little bit of these types of returns.
And you just signed a piece of paper.
I signed a bit of paper, I made some calls, spoke to Steve, spoke to these guys a bit, and 2 months later, like really.
And gotta remember though, commercial property doesn't grow though.
That's right. You've only made 300, 400 grand in the last couple of years from signing 2 bits of paper. This guy today, with less than 800 grand worth of commercial property, has made close to $500,000 in 2 years. And weirdly, he did it by selling Lego. Let's jump into the podcast and find out how. Hey guys, on today's episode, we've actually got a different co-host. We've got Adrian Cicchino, who heads up our commercial division at Palise Property. We've got him on today because he actually knows the nitty gritty of the deals. And we've also got one of our clients, Beau Thaller, who's actually bought a few properties through us, and we're going to go through his journey and experience and portfolio. Adrian, first episode with us. How you going?
Yeah, going good so far. Thank you very much for having me on. Interesting to delve deep into Beau's portfolio that he's got so far, and he's worked some magic.
Beau, awesome to have you on, man. So this should be a fun one. We're going to go through everything with your portfolio, everything you're comfortable with anyway, and then break down what you're trying to achieve and all that type of stuff. But
yeah, pretty excited. Thanks for having me on. First podcast, so it's all interesting and new to me, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's one of those ones like it's the fearful of going on, but I don't want to disclose too much and things like that. But in reality, and this is my partner's the same. So we had a big thing of all the stuff we've bought recently. People don't know unless someone's willing to actually say it. Otherwise, it's just social media nonsense. You can write anything. So it's good to have you on. But Beau, do you want to maybe just give us a run through what you do for work, when you're starting your investing, and how we got here?
Yeah, sure. It's a bit of an interesting one when you ask what I do. I guess I have a couple of businesses that I run. And I guess initially I started in digital advertising, working with Yellow Pages. And then started investing in like shares and things like that, just getting my feet wet and cutting my teeth on that sort of stuff. And then I realized it was, pretty scary, watching the share market all the time every morning, like when I'm waking up from the US market in the morning in Australia and like, oh God, am I going to be rich today or whatever, and it's just panicking. And I did a lot of that and I did quite well. I had shares in Apple and stuff like that, and those tech stocks went up. Oh, wow. And I sold that to go in and buy my first property, and buy my house that's in Seaford, SA. And I built that. So I first bought land, and that was for about 210K. And then...
what was the premise of buying land? Is just you thought you had a bit more control of it, or you knew the area?
One of my brothers kept on telling me, you should buy property, you got to buy something, because I had a full-time job and I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And he said, well, you find a block of land first and then you build on it, because then you get access to the first homeowner's grant. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense, because I think at the time then that was 15 grand or something. You got a grant. Oh, so I was like, okay, that makes sense. So I found the plot of land in Seaford, South Australia, and bought it for 210K. That was in 2017, and then built on it. It was finished in the end of 2018. So that's the first taste of property. And then I guess just having that sitting there, I pretty much just did all the bare minimums as what you could do when you're building a house. Like I didn't do all the massive extras and stuff. I just did the things that would be the hardest to do once it's built, like made sure the ceilings were 1,700 square meters, and
So do you live there when you do it?
we lived there. Yep. So my now wife, but a girlfriend and partner at the time, we both moved in there in 2018. And then all the landscaping stuff needed to be done. We didn't even have a driveway. So I had to do all those things. While I was doing that, I was listening to investing podcasts, like about, that was more, a lot of that was around residential stuff. Yeah, I was just listening to those different podcasts and other people's journeys, and that kind of excited me into wanting to get into property investing.
Oh, cool. Adrian, coincidentally, you've got a property in Seaford that you bought and sold, similar time frame, and you've sold yours now as well, Beau, haven't you? So you both made a tiny profit.
Yeah. That was my first interaction with Palise property, actually, before I became an employee.
You're a client.
Well, I was a client, and worked out pretty well for me. Got in the market at the right time, got out of the market at the right time. Yep. I understand the area pretty well.
So Adrian, do you want to maybe explain what you actually do for Palise Property for the listeners?
My role's acquisitions manager for Palise Property, mainly in two areas, in WA around the Perth CBD metro area and Southeast Queensland are kind of the main two areas that I source for our clients. So my day-to-day is I'm on the phone, between agents, our DD team and our clients, essentially just trying to find deals that provide really good value for our buyers, trying to secure them as low in price as we can, with the best terms that we can, and then just helping the acquisitions team dive through the DD when we get it under contract, and then touching base with the clients throughout the whole process as we need to, and hopefully just managing the process from acquisition all the way through to settlement, and helping our DD and settlements team along the way. Yeah,
we're actually talking off air about how we don't necessarily have to buy unicorns or really low priced properties, which is perfect because we're at Beau in, because we actually just presented good deals to you that are now fantastic deals for yield and price uplift. So we'll go into that a little bit later. So Beau, that was your first property. Why commercial? How did you get here? How did you find Palise Property, or how did you get involved in commercial in the first place?
Yeah, well, a lot of like as I said before, I was listening to podcasts while I was finishing the landscaping of the Seaford house, and that piqued my interest about resi. But then by the time I was ready to purchase an investment property, the interest rates obviously went up, and the numbers didn't work anymore. It didn't really make sense to me. So then I got onto commercial property, and I started listening, and I actually found your podcast.
Oh, cool.
And I listened to every episode, and it just clicked, because I just started, I left my full-time job, I started my own business, and to me it was all about cash flow, trying to get the growth from it, and commercial property looked like it could do that. It could self-sustain itself in a way. So that then made sense to me because it was positive cash flow. I didn't want to have to delve into my pocket, into my business profits, to hinder the growth of the business to then pushing a property. So I wanted the property to grow itself, essentially, at least giving that positive cash flow.
Yeah, which we'll talk about. So you've actually had better capital growth than your residential as well, and that's one of the big misconceptions is you don't get capital growth with commercial.
Exactly, that was a huge thing. I think after I bought the first commercial property with you, at first I had I was looking at some other deals because, property was going off everywhere, around that time, 2021, 2022. And I'm just like, shit, maybe, could I have bought 2 other resis and maybe in Perth, or did something and I could have actually made. But as we all know, maybe later when we talk about it, those properties, it's actually done the same, if not better, while also getting a positive cash flow return.
Yeah, okay.
So
what do you have a particular goal with commercial? Is it sort of portfolio size? Is it a passive income goal? Or for now, it's just early days where you're just let's buy some self-generating assets?
Well, for me, it was a no-brainer in the way that if it goes up similar as resi is capital growth, because it's a long-term gain, a long-term plan here, so if it goes up, historically, it went up the same as resi, then why not make the positive cash flow at the same time?
Yeah. And one of the things I've started saying on actual podcasts is if you're getting 3 times the income for a commercial, you could theoretically buy something on a 3-year lease, it then go vacant, and it can sit there vacant for another 6 years, and you're still in no worse position than buying resi. People go, oh no, you got a vacant property, but you're getting 3 times the income. That's the powerful and actually arguably lower risk.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that, and you say a lot of that as well in your previous episodes of your podcast too, that in business, in everything, like in life, there's good opportunities where you can buy into, and there's bad ones and whatever. There's risk everywhere. But when you know what you're doing and you know the areas to buy in, it's lowers the risk in that way.
Yeah, and we're, as Adrian knows, like we don't buy the stupidly high yielding ones. We get clients all the time bring us a deal and go, oh, we found this 7.5% yield. I don't even look at it anymore. I'm just like, the sellers aren't going to give it to you that much cheaper than the area. There's something wrong with it.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, pretty much every time. Anytime anyone presents anything, because you know the areas perfectly, like square meter rates and that. If it's too far away, you know there's something wrong with it, because the sellers aren't idiots, the agents aren't idiots. Like it's better to buy in a well encapsulated area with low risk.
Well, the other cool thing that I saw as well immediately, is that the tenant pays for all the outgoings and stuff. So, with my Seaford house, I rented it out when I moved to Brisbane. And it was a new home, right? Because we just built it and it was our baby and it was the first one. And we could just see they trashed it. You see the photos, there's just like marks on the walls. Like, looked like someone was living there for 5-10 years. Like, what did they do to here? Like they opened the doors in the garage, just smack straight onto the wall. There was like huge gouges. I'm like, ugh. So that's what prompted me, like, what am I doing with this?
It's also the resi people that are trying to plug resi. I'm not against resi, as you know.
No.
They'll give you the numbers, being like, oh, it's not too bad. We got a 4.5% gross yield. They're not taking into account the 5-10 grand of your maintenance as well.
Oh, definitely. Like, it's funny that, I said before that, my brother told me, buy a plot of land first and take advantage of the 15 grand grant. Well, now I know what I know now. I wouldn't have done that. I would have bought an established property, because there was the time lost opportunity that I realize now of holding that land for a year, waiting for it to be built. Okay, yeah, I made 15 grand, but what did I lose in that time?
It's typically the premium as well. It's kind of like a new car. You can buy a new house. In 5 years' time, no one actually cares if it's a 5-year-old house or a 10-year-old house. So it's kind of like you lose that glossiness of the buy.
But like, if someone was opening or trashed some of the wall, I wouldn't worry so much if it was already established and it was already a bit rough. But because it was like a, new shiny shoes or something, or your brand new car, you don't want anyone to touch it or scratch it. So that's where I would have done different. I don't want to do that for resi. But, when it comes into it, the tenant actually wants to look after the property because it's their business. So they want it to look good for other people to come in and visit them. So their clients or customers. So that's where it just made sense. It was awesome. And on top of that as well is that with commercial, like people say with residential, you can value add, you can renovate a new bathroom or a new kitchen or a lick of paint and stuff, and that'll add equity to the home, and it can manufacture growth. Well, same thing you can do with commercial as well. And the thing that stood out with me in the first conversation I had with you was about the industrial warehouse, is that having those high truss roofs so that you could potentially put a mezzanine on there, which can increase the floor space. Because that was the aha moment, is for commercial property, it's about the floor space. So if I can increase the floor space, you can like almost inject equity straight away by just increasing the floor space by adding that mezzanine. And that was like, wow, I could just add a 50, 70 square meter mezzanine and then just jump the equity by 100 grand. It's crazy.
Without that much effort.
Not too much at all. I already called the council. It can be done. It's just more the tenant in there at the moment. He doesn't really need it. So, but it's good knowing that I've got options for the future. I could do that.
Yeah, we had that chat as well. Adrian's actually a developer on the side, so you've got a few development sides. Like the amount of effort doing a mezzanine floor versus a development, what is it?
Yeah, it's so simple. Yeah. It's so simple. And there's a lot of councils out there as well that certifies and give approvals for simple things like mezzanine. You don't actually have to go through council. And I know that, in Perth, we'll talk about your properties. There is a couple of councils that are like that. So it's a very simple way. You just essentially, if your tenants just doesn't want it, you're kind of hoping that something happens to their business so that they can they can move out.
Exactly,
so you can take advantage of that. And it's a lot easier than what people think. You just need the right asset, and sometimes the right assets are the boring vanilla assets, which when we presented them to you, they weren't knock out of the park assets. They were just good assets in good locations, and you've reaped the benefits of that.
And they've outperformed all the higher risk ones that other people are buying. They go, I get a 7% and things like that.
Yep.
But one of the things I want to touch on, you've got a very interesting side hustle, which you make quite good money from on the weekends. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. One of the businesses I have is actually my main business now. It's done very well. I sell Lego minifigures. So online, I've got an online store. I started off, I don't know, I was like maybe 22 years old. So I don't know when that was, but I'm 39 now. So yeah, so like
long time ago.
It was a while ago. So I just had my own collection. Like I loved Lego growing up as a kid and stuff. And it was just like, it was small, it was easy to take my collectibles around when I moved house and whatever. So I'd collect little minifigures like little Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker or something, Star Wars, because I love Star Wars. And I just grew that, and I found a cool way was to buy Lego off of eBay from United States sellers on eBay. And I'll just buy 2 of the same one, and then I'd resell it here in Australia because it was limited. You couldn't really get them here in Australia, and no one was doing it. And I would just sell it on Australia, and I'd double the price, and the profit I made with that paid for mine. So essentially I'm growing my collection for free. So I just did that while I was working full time.
Was the main thing that's because the people can't be bothered like waiting for it? So
exactly.
It's the speed, like they're like, I need this quickly. I'd rather pay the premium and get the
100%.
Yeah.
Like when I was 22, I came back from Canada because I did a working holiday there and in Whistler, like a lot of Australians do. But I came back and I started as a sales rep, and I learned a lot about sales there. So I started just selling stuff, and I learned about urgency, the importance of urgency. And that was in that time where online shopping was just pretty much ramping up, like it was getting busier and busier. And it was always on those, shipping times, getting things quick and fast. And people didn't want to wait. It was the waiting, but it was also like if there was a problem, like these Lego minifigures, they're plastic and they're quite fragile, like easy. Like if the arms are moving and they're pushed in, they can scratch even in the packaging. So I think a lot of people had confidence buying from domestic, like in Australia, because if there was a problem, they could easily return it and get a refund easy. Whereas if you have to return it back to US, it's like, $20 or and it's delayed. It's like months. Back then, it wasn't as good as what it is now. So people like, to save the drama, I'll just pay an extra, $40.
I think that's because even when I'm on like Amazon and I see US, it can be the item I want and cheaper, and more expensive, cheaper. And then I see the Australian one. I'll typically pay the premium for the Australian one because I'm like, at least I'll get it in 3 days. I don't have to wait. Because sometimes it can be a week. Other times you sit there for like 2 months being like, where's my item?
Exactly. And this is like toys and hobby stuff, right? So who do you think's buying this stuff? Yeah. It's going to be either collectors that want it for their own collection, but at that time, before all those were collectors and whatever, all those millennials like my age actually had disposable income that we could build our collection out. Back then it was more like buying it for kids. So, and for the kids it was like birthdays and stuff. And they need that now because people leave it last minute. So they can't afford to wait, a couple of months for it to come in, hopefully from America. So that's just what I did, so I didn't need the urgency. So I just bought a couple and then built it that way. So, and then I quickly realized that, holy shit, I could actually do a little business on the side for this, make a bit of pocket money. So that's exactly what I did. And it was quite funny because along my journey, I always wanted to get into business, but I didn't know exactly what that was, what that meant. And, I tried different things, I tried selling green tea. I tried selling like iPhone cases and stuff on eBay. I got banned because it was, because it said like it was Apple. I should have said it was for Apple. Like I got banned from eBay, but I used a different account for it. So it was that sort of stuff. But all along, it was actually the Lego that if I just stuck at that at the beginning, I probably would have been 3 times the size what I am now.
I just love that it's your main income now. Like a little side hobby on the weekends working in any garage is now like a really good income for you.
That was the thing. Like I didn't realize there was so many of people like me out there, like collectors. I just thought, I was kind of unique, or me and my brothers, we like Lego, but I just thought we were just a bunch of nerds that love Star Wars, and you meet some friends. A lot of nerds
out there, man.
And like, it was almost like one of those things, like you don't really, open with that at a conversation when you're meeting friends or new people or on a date that you collected Star Wars or Lego or minifigures. Like it's just one of those offside.
It's one of those funny ones. Whenever I walk past a Lego store now in like a Westfields, and if I go in for like my nieces to get a present, the kids section is a tiny section of the store, and then the rest is for adult stuff, and the whole store is filled with adults looking at Lego. I'm like, what happened here?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, and then now I was doing that on the side, and I then, when I was working as a sales rep or an account manager in a digital marketing company, well, Yellow Pages, like I said before, and when I went out on my own and started my own digital advertising business, just a little niche, I had that on the side, and then COVID hit around that time, and I had a few of my clients freak out and they cancelled or paused their campaigns. I'm like, oh crap. But then I panicked a little, but then suddenly all the Lego stuff that I had ramped up.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone was at home through the lockdowns and they wanted to play with Lego, and they just wanted to collect Lego again. And that's what excelled the growth of that side of the business. And then I'm like, oh shit. And then I used that time of my own lockdowns to build my own store off of eBay, because I was just purely on eBay. And then, but I realized with eBay, they have their own like service metrics you got to go through to be top rated. And like, if you just have like I was getting customers from like international customers that would say they didn't receive it. And I try to keep my shipping costs as low as possible. And I used to send it as like an international letter with no tracking.
Yeah.
But if they open a case against me on eBay, there's nothing I can do to do that. So I have to refund them. And sometimes I miss it. And if you get certain of those that you miss and you don't get back to the customer, you actually get dropped. Your service levels gets dropped. So from top rated down. And then when that happens, traffic to your site drops and it affects my sales.
Because I was thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, you're saving money on the postage. So that one that you got to return, you're still better off saving on the postage. And you know, but it's not about that. It's actually about where you are on the actual rating
That's
system.
right. And eBay could throttle that for you if they could penalize you. So I was like, oh my God. And you just know that some customers, they have received it. They're just being dodgy. They know the workaround. They'll just say they didn't receive it, because I had some reoccurring guys that would do it. And like, I'd keep a spreadsheet of it, because I would, copy and paste their username. So okay, I know what's going on here. But these days, I just gotten to the point where, and I don't want to tell people this, don't do this, is like, I would just, if they open a case against me, I'll just refund them, whatever. Because I didn't want to get penalized for that, because that dropped my sales dramatically by like 30% by doing that. And that cost me more than just refunding them $15, whatever. And most people don't, 99% of people are genuine and honest. And it's just those 1% bad actors that do it.
You get it in every business, but that's part of starting a business. Is I call it like pulling the thread. It's just at the start, you have no idea what's coming, but you just start and you see the opportunities after that.
That's right. And that's what prompted me. You know what? I'm sick of eBay just having the power of that. Like, I want to have another platform, start my own business.
So you got your own shop.
So I built my own shop on Shopify's platform. And then, during those lockdowns, and which is pretty cool. I found an app, because I was like, oh my God, at this stage, there's hundreds of products. And I'm like, how am I going to put all those from eBay onto the Shopify? And under searching, I found an app where it can sync all inventory and products from my eBay account straight into the Shopify one. So I could talk with the Shopify. So I just pressed a button, and 30 minutes later, I had my whole store from eBay suddenly up on Shopify, generating traffic, getting all, picking up from Google's algorithms and spiders and whatever. And then it was getting found, and suddenly I started getting sales on store. And then during that time, it just took off and grew and grew and grew. And then now it's overtook my digital marketing business side of things. And yeah.
Any plans to just ramp it up and make that a full-time gig?
Well, it actually already is.
Okay,
we talked initially when we first bought the first one. I remember we've had a couple of conversations where I'm like, because I really want to excel the property investing journey. And how do I get the next one and the next one? And I remember you saying to me, well, double your income.
The easy way to double your portfolio, double your income.
Exactly.
Twice as many deposits.
And I'm like, yeah, but how can I do that? I'm only one guy. I'm only doing this. And you're like, well, you need to employ people. And then I was like, oh, but how are they going to do the same job as what I do? I don't know. I need to clone myself. And he's like, no, don't worry. They might not be as good as you, but you can free up your time. So, that really sat with me. I just started mentioning it to I get along with my local post office. And I was chatting to him about it, and he's got a good network of other businesses, because he's a post office. They all come to lodge, and he knew of someone that had a couple of workers that are a bit quiet throughout the day, because they have different periods in their work, and they could actually do my orders. And they know Shopify, they know the same systems I do. I was like, wow, how the hell could this be? This is just a perfect fit. And it was just around the corner from where I live. And so I'm like, okay. So I just moved my whole store and did a sublease in there. And two of them, I just taught them kind of what I did and showed them how it's done. And they just picked it up, and right now they're doing my orders as we speak. I can see it come through. They're doing it. As we're sitting here, I can feel it like jink, and they're putting through the international orders through it.
It's a small time pain, but you can actually scale them. You can actually tell. And weirdly, you'll actually, when we spoke about like, the staffs aren't going to be as good, you can actually get better stuff. Like Adrian is better at acquisitions than me. He's just got a gift of the gab. No offense to agents that we work with, I don't like talking to them. Like most of the time, I'm better at the numbers and socials and doing that type of stuff. So you can actually find people that are better than you as well.
100%. That was the thing. Like one thing that I thought was incredible is that, when they went in there and they saw what I did, they printed out a kind of a sheet which itemized, I think it kind of list the orders, because sometimes I would get people buy one Lego minifigure and then it hasn't been shipped yet, like over the weekend, and they realize, we want another one, and they buy it a couple of days later, but I haven't shipped the first one yet, and I can combine their purchase into one. But sometimes I miss it because it goes in a whole list of the date when it spits out in the system, whereas they printed off a different system which could combine them by name, so they could never miss that. Sometimes I would ship it and I would miss it, and I'd pay double in shipping costs when I didn't need to. I could have saved that shipping.
Yeah, okay.
So they did a little system, like a little manifest that they would print out. I'm like, that's really cool. And they just highlight it off. I'm like, wow, that's more efficient than what I did. And they don't have that problem. Whereas I'm like, how much have I lost actually by double shipping stuff? Or I'd go back through and I'd rip open one and I have to open it up and put it back and then sticky tape it all back, and it's time lost. So that sort of stuff was like, oh wow, that's actually cool. Like it actually can make things better, and to your point, it can be better than you.
Yeah. On a side note, did you see the Formula One this year in Melbourne? The drivers, when they showcased the drivers, drove full-size Lego Formula One cars. That drove.
God, no, I did not see that.
Yeah, I sent you the Instagram.
Jeez, no, I didn't see that.
As a Formula One fan, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was pretty
like
cool
a proper working Lego car that they showcased all the drivers.
Did they have
car with like the Formula One wheels?
Yeah.
Oh my
Like it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jeez, did they have the, because like in Lego, you can have the Lego motor in their old sets. Did they actually have
I don't know.
a maximized Lego motor? That would be cool.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
There was something in there because they were moving.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So let's get into the property stuff. That's why most people are here.
That's right.
Commercial number one. So you came to us. Adrian found you a deal. I might actually get Adrian to run through the deal, and then we can kind of go in from there.
Yeah. So Beau came to us, had a pretty open mind with regards to asset class and location. Was pretty open to just hear our feedback and hear our thoughts why we like the property. So we had a pretty open scope. Could have found any property anywhere in Australia as long as it ticked the boxes. So I'm not sure whether it was the first one or one of the first ones that we sent to Beau, but it was a warehouse in Perth in a suburb called Forestdale, one of the newer industrial estates, in the southern region of Perth. It's probably been in operation for maybe 6 to 8 years now, the suburb itself. And there wasn't nothing special about it. It was pretty vanilla. It had a sitting tenant in there. I think they had 3 years left on the lease there. 6% net return, just 4 walls and a roof, like every other industrial property. It was just clean. It was simple. We thought it was located in a good location that was prime for some pretty decent long-term growth. And that's what we presented and had a discussion with Beau about.
Yeah. So the tenant, I think in this one was a mechanic, wasn't it?
Yeah, mechanic, engineer, products, fabrication, some type of fabrication. Still there. Believe they've been paying the rent every month. Haven't been any other concerns or issues.
I think this one's
awesome.
Yeah, this one's been pretty low maintenance for you.
Yeah,
6% for you.
that's which is exactly what I wanted. Like, because it was my first commercial property, I didn't want anything crazy or risky. I just wanted exactly what you just said, just something that has, cement walls, something that's easy. It was new. I think it was only like 2-3 years old or something.
Yeah.
So, and it was boring. Like, I think to your point from the last podcast, it was a boring property. It didn't look that exciting. So it's just an industrial warehouse. But what I liked about it is it's versatile. So, those things, especially like with online shopping, it was pretty close to airports. It had access to the freeways and stuff. So, if this engineering tenant moved for whatever reason, it shouldn't be that hard to find another tenant. So it had decent floor at 220 6 square meters, so it wasn't real small. Like you could do stuff to it. You could add a mezzanine to it. So I had options as well for future. So like to me, it was a great introduction to commercial property.
Yeah, that's fine. So what year we get that, Adrian? Was that last year? You put
That
2023?
was May 2023 or March 2023.
2023. So we got that in 2023 for what price again?
490,000.
Yeah. So when people say you can't buy a property with a cheap commercial property, you still can. What do you think it's valued at now? So we had some recent sales we actually brought up prior to this.
Yeah, I would say it's worth early to mid 600s now. It's at a decent amount of growth as we expected in that area. The rents have gone up dramatically as well. So I think Beau's got a market review early, probably Q1, Q2 next year. And I think he can realise that gain on that market review would probably be jumping up to $150 to $170 a square metre.
Yeah. So that's what a 6% to now what the yield's going to be?
On his purchase price, it's probably going to be high sevens, mid to high sevens, yeah. But yeah, there'd be definitely some equity there when he does a market review next year. And
that's one of the key points of don't just go out and chase a 7% yielding one, because that would still be worth 7% net yield. Now we're actually getting that year on year on year. Hopefully in the next 3 years, that's going to jump to an 8.5, and then it comes to 9.5, and then it's just pays for itself very easily.
Yeah. So I've said to Beau, and I say to a lot of clients, boring in commercial is good. Boring in vanilla is good. You just got to be right asset in the right location.
We always get it. You send them a property and they go, "Oh, I'm not blown away by it." And I'm like, exactly. This is what we want.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think like you shouldn't expect that initially, like bargains everywhere, because those bargains are already gone. It's already been realized. So you want, you don't know what the future is, and you can just be calculative towards that property, but it's not going to do anything initially. It's what comes after, like the market or the returns. But I built a lot of my figures into what I think was really cool was the automatic rental increases, and on that property was 4% or CPI greater of. So I base my figures on the capital growth going up by 4% each year. Yep. At least. Like I like to build on minimums. Everything else is just a nice to have or a bonus.
Yep.
So I wasn't looking at, I'm going to get this property and, in less than 2 years' time, it's suddenly going to go up, 120 grand or 150 grand or whatever. Like I didn't do that. It was only going to go up by 15 grand or whatever it is each year or something. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah, and you're being conservative because you're just looking at the rental increases. We did a video, me and Adrian, of cap rate compression in Perth as well. And we actually found most of 6% is actually getting closer to 5%. So we're getting capital growth from the cap rate compression plus your rental increases. And then if the market's in demand, then you'll get even more rental increases than the fixed ones as well.
Yeah, well, see, I don't even understand a lot of that stuff. So I just built on just...
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I try to get my head around that, and I think I do, but now, definitely back then. And when I was building my spreadsheets, I was just looking at the 4% and just, the average growth on properties roughly, 6%. So, it looked like a decent play. And, some people invest things into their super and stuff. I don't. Invest anyway. I mean, I've still got it there from when I used to work salary, but property to me, that is my super. Like that is my growth that's going to be just sitting there, and I've got control over it, whereas super, I don't have control. So, that's, yeah.
We can still get your property in super, don't worry. So
build it up for us.
Yeah. All right. So that was property number one, and then we bought the next property. So maybe Adrian, do you want to go over property number two that we bought for Beau?
Yep. So Beau came back to us, I think it was roughly 12 months after the first property. He was pretty happy with the first purchase, being industrial property, and kind of had that in his mind again, looking for another concrete box as they are. But I found something again in Perth. This time it was a retail asset. So it was in a suburb called Connolly. It's in a northern suburb of Perth itself. It was front of complex, and I had an American barbecue slow cooked meats tendered in there. So, commercial kitchen with a shop front. Again, the metrics were just tick the boxes. There was nothing special about it. It was just a property in a complex, front of complex, surrounded by residential
suburban retail, all tenanted, no issues with vacancy.
Yep, no issue with vacancy. Very, very hard to find any comps for transactions as well within kind of 2.5 to 5 kilometre radius. So we knew there wasn't going to be a massive issue with supply down the track if something happened, whatever happened.
That's a good point, because that's actually scary for a novice investor being like, well, you're not giving me any comparables. What's it actually worth? And it's a double-edged sword. Like, you can get some assurity that the price you're paying if there's lots of sales, but that also means a high turnover, and that actually means there's more properties coming up for lease and vacancies as well. So having that, and like my little shopping center, same thing. There's nothing within a 2.5 kilometer radius.
Exactly. And I had that exact same thought when I first came across, but I had some, like, I got, my feet wet with the first one, and that looked like it went well, and I could actually see something tangible, and I understood it. So I thought, I trust you guys, and it all went well. So I thought, yeah, okay, it's probably good to diversify, not just keep buying industrial warehouses, try and do something different. But yeah.
So I think it's worth talking about. So with this one, I wouldn't say it's an issue, but like, do you want to maybe talk about, so we've had some issues with the flooring, for instance, because it's American barbecue, gets very slippery. And the reason I'm bringing this up is to not sugarcoat like commercial property, because things like retail and even industrial, there are little nuances, but it's not a big deal, but it's something that you have to consider.
Yeah, but actually I was just going to say something before and I forgot, but it just popped back in now as you said it, is when that first deal came across from Adrian, I first looked at it and like, I was thinking like, hold on. I remember in the brief with Steve, like I could go up to 500 grand. And this is what I thought was cool. Like my trust, not to kind of, I don't know, sugarcoat you or anything like that, but like I thought it was cool that you could have went up to 500 or even pushed maybe 520K for a property or something. And this just cemented more trust with you guys, is that you presented me with a property that was 410K. Like I'm like, why are they pushing this to me? They could have maximized their commissions more or try to push me on a higher property or something like this. And here they are presenting me with a 410 property, which mind you, like as an early investor, I'm comfortable with a lower property. Like I don't need to go so high. So I thought, this is easy because I've got some more breathing room for if there was a problem with it, or if I got something, I got some more money that I could actually fix it up with if need be. I thought that was really cool. But then, yeah, we go on to the flooring and stuff, which Adrian did mention. I think in the due diligence stuff, he did mention, hey, there could be like some of the roofing. I think out of the building and pest came out with the flooring is a bit scuffy here and there, but shouldn't take too much to fix.
Yeah.
So yeah, but in talking to like a few months went by and I chatting to the tenant, or the tenant talking to the property manager, saying about the floors being a bit slippery and things like that. And I just asked like, okay, well, how much is that going to be? Can we just paint over it or something, or with non-stick or whatever it is on the vinyl? And yeah, we got a flooring contractor in there and he basically said, no, like you can't do that. You have to pull it up and replace it. And it was, I don't know. And the tenant was coming back with some quotes of like 15 grand for some epoxy A grade sort of stuff. And I was like, well, that would be great, but do we necessarily have to do that? Because it's an older kind of building. Like maybe we can get away with something else, or I can contribute like 2K or something.
But this is what we kind of spoke about, is then you can sort of negotiate with the tenant being like, if you sign a fresh 5-year lease, I will do this for you. And in reality, you get half of that back on tax anyway. You get a new lease, you revalue the property, you're good to go again. So there are options at least.
Yeah, like so I was talking to the property manager about that and I said, okay, well, hold on, like live with me. And I kind of pulled up my Excel spreadsheet and trying to calculate numbers. And I realized that, okay, well, how about we present back to them with, I'll do that, I'll do it or replace it, 15 grand, whatever, if they could take up their option earlier. Because I know that property's had some growth, and I know that by getting a market review, it would increase the rent, which would then increase the equity. And then I could move forward and maybe purchase another property sooner. So I saw that as a benefit. For only 15 grand to get access to X amount of equity made sense to me. So we presented that back to the tenant. So it's something that we're in the process of negotiating.
That's probably one of the negatives I'd say with retail, is there's always a bit of back and forth with the tenancy, who owns what. When they change tenants, the fit out costs and the incentives. I've had this with I've got a cafe in Brisbane, it doesn't have a grease trap. Then who pays for the grease trap? And it's got all that stuff. So that's the particular, but generally you'll get a better yield and the tenants will be there for the life of the business. So that business is not going to move if they're really successful. They'll probably open another shop elsewhere.
Exactly.
So as long as they're doing well.
Exactly. I said to the property manager too, I just want to be a good landlord. I just want to do the right thing for both parties. Help them have a win and me have a win. I don't want to be one of those landlords that are like, nah, I'm not giving you anything. Because I do see the value of having the tenant there.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and it's good. And it's one of those ones as well. Even if they left in say 5 or 10 years, and you spent the 15 grand, or you have a half incentive, or they pay for it, whatever it is, another commercial kitchen can operate that, and you'll probably get a premium rent for it as well.
That's right.
So, Adrian, with this property, so what did we get it for versus what's it worth now?
Good question. So I think it was about 2 months after we settled on Beau's second property. I shot him an email and gave him a call. I was like, hey, I got some good news for you. There was a property that was listed online in the same complex, 50 square meters smaller. So Beau's about 118 square meters. This one was about 70 square meters. We secured Beau's for 410,000, like we alluded to. And this one's getting advertised for offers over 500 grand. So 100 grand more for something 50 square meters smaller. So that was one comp that I thought, sure, because obviously, like we said, there wasn't many comps around to say, was Beau's a good deal? It was kind of just referring off the rent and the cap rate and going, yeah, look, it's sitting about where we think it should be sitting. I saw this property and think, wow, this is going to be amazing if this goes through. And it went through, and it went through pretty quickly. So somebody's jumped on it as a leased investment and paid 520,000 for it. So we're already in a position where we've secured Beau's at, call it, $3,500 a square meter, and something's transacted within a couple of months at, 4,700 a square meter. Same retail, same complex. Then on top of that, there was another transaction that happened in a adjacent suburb, a little bakery. Again, went up about 70 square meters, saw the price, thought, surely not. This is going to, they're not going to get that price. Lo and behold, they got that price. That transacted for 5,700 a square meter.
Okay.
So within kind of 6 months of Beau settling, he's got two very similar comps that have transacted at a much, much higher rate. So Beau, we're talking, 12 months ago now, May, 410,000. I'd say it's high 500s now. I'd say it's had, close to 30% growth, 25-30% growth in 12 months. And when he gets to a market review...
It's getting close to 50%.
Yeah, well, yeah. Great result.
Yeah.
Again, you've got a market review Q1, Q2 next year on this tenant. Just so happened that they both had leases start at the same time, 3 leases coming up for market review.
Which normally you don't try to do, but it just worked out that way.
Yeah, actually, I did gulp a little bit because I remember listening to one of your, your podcast earlier that says you try not to match the leases up, like try to get them at different points just in case you lose a tenant. I'm like, oh crap, these are like 1 month difference.
For the good thing is for your industrial property, we know the vacancy rate's there like 1 to 3 months. So that buffer's easy to hold. The typical retail one's a bit harder because there's not many comparables. That one can be 6 months, but then you get the tenant forever. So it just means we've got to have an adequate buffer for that period.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like what Adrian was saying like before, like when I first got shot this deal and looked at it, when I was trying to look around the area, there was nothing I could compare it to. Like there was hardly any of those types of buildings, like little bakery that has like a cool room and a little, shop, like a cooking kitchen thing at the back and a frontage that people could have like table and sit down for. There wasn't hardly anything around that I could compare it to. It was weird without going directly into Perth CBD or away from that area. And it was really hard to gauge. But, I just looked at the numbers, I think it was like 6.1% yield at the time. It was pretty boring, everything again on paper. But to me, it just looked like it just ticked the boxes for my investment journey. And then like when I got that email from you, I'm like, holy shit. Like that means my property's just gone up with like almost 100 grand within 2 months or 2-3 months. And I'm like, I'm working my ass off for my business, for 10 plus years to try to get a stock level, to get a cash flow, to try to get even a little bit of these types of returns.
And you just signed a piece of paper.
I signed a bit of paper. I made some calls, spoke to Steve, spoke to these guys a bit, and 2 months later, like really.
Gotta remember though, commercial property doesn't grow though.
That's right. You've only made 300, 400 grand in the last couple of years from signing 2 bits of paper.
But I mean, I made all these, like I said earlier, I made all these decisions not based on it was going to do that. It was more on all the boring stuff. It'd only go up 4% plus 6%, whatever, capital growth or whatever on average based in the last 20, 30 years or whatever through property growth. That's what I was basing all my figures on, not these these things. But it was a good time. Like that was a good moment in that little market niche where no one really knew. It was a great purchase, and I didn't know at the first. I was still wanting. I was humming and hawing. I wanted a warehouse, but I thought, okay, why not? Let's give it a go. And then the other one, another like 6 months later, they listed it for sale, like another property, another little warehouse for 77 square meters, and yeah, it was crazy. And it sold for like, what was that one? Like 500?
It was high hundreds.
Yeah, something like that. And I don't even know. I try to base it on how much mine is valued, but still there's hardly any on the market. But that's just, it's crazy. Within 2 years for both properties to almost get like that result. Incredible.
And where this chat off air is, the plan's going to be obviously when the leases get renewed and they get the higher rate, you go back to the bank and you pull out the equity, and then we can potentially buy more.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that because I haven't done that yet. And even though I'm at the beginning of my journey, like only 2 years, like with you guys, like to be at this level and to go again is exciting and awesome. Because
we are going again. So this is number 3, but something a bit different now. We're actually going back to residential for more of a personal strategic decision, I'd say.
Yeah, that's because my wife, she's Japanese, and she moved over. Like when I built the seafood house, she moved in with me, and she was there helping me in the landscaping, getting in there. She loves it, and that was great. But she's been watching me in my property journey while she's been working and building up. She's only just started in Australia and trying to learn how things are run here, and you got to think like in Japan, the property market is very flat, it doesn't move. Because they've got a decreasing population. So
I was there a year ago just looking at property prices, and as soon as you get out of the major cities, for like 20, 30 grand, you can buy a stunning home. Like, it's ridiculous.
Mate, you can buy a house, one of those cool like traditional house, $2,000.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
In a rural area that no one goes. No. Like nothing, but you got to like upkeep it and maintain it in the middle of nowhere and like these mountains. Just no one wants to live there because it's so hard to get there. There's no train to go there. It's like a dirt track, and you got a local community, but it's like $2,000. Yeah. And you can have that whole house. It's like, I'm like, the fuck? Why don't I buy it? But if you bought it, you can't do anything with it. Like you live it and
novelty.
That's exactly what it is. So
but
it's crazy.
So one of the agents we actually work with owns 2 ski lodges over there, and he bought each of those for about $1 million each, and they're like proper like 10-bedroom ski lodges.
What is that, like Hakuba or Niseko or something?
So and it's just like, wow, out, like you don't get much for $1 million now. Average house price in Sydney is 1.3 mil.
That's right. Yeah. So like, but if you're doing, what we're doing here, and you try to replicate that over in Japan, it's a different market completely over there. And like you can probably get similar sort of yields I saw on like rentals. Like if you're just doing like like apartment buildings and stuff, you might be able to get the rent
while it's tenanted
yield.
Though. But that's the
right.
thing. We've got tighter vacancy rates and shorter supply. They've got oversupply. So
exactly.
That's the growth fundamentals not there.
That's right. So they don't have the capital growth like we do here. So
did she consider buying something over there just as a nest egg?
No,
because still on strained mindset.
Yeah, no, she wasn't, because it was just she was a lot younger. She wasn't as experienced there in that, and she was still living at home with the parents at the time, so she wasn't really exposed to that whole property scene over there so much. But she was aware, because they had like a lot of people lose money on homes and stuff there. So she grew up around that property is not a great investment. So when she comes here, she's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, she was panicking a little bit about, are you sure it's the right thing to go into commercial and buy these things? And then so she panicked a bit. So anyway, so she saw the success that I've done, and she's just been saving. She's a great saver. She's very frugal. And,
is she into Lego?
Sadly, no.
Sadly, no.
No, I think she finds me a bit weird with that, which is kind of sad. Like, it would be great if she loved it, but no.
No, it can ruin it, I think. I think if you both got too many similar interests, they can actually ruin it for you.
Yeah, maybe. It was great, but she was definitely helping me with it. She would always support me on it, and she's definitely helped me packing it and packing orders and stuff, like behind the scenes and things. So she gets it. But yeah, so she's just been working hard for the last few years, and she's been just building up her savings. But I've been getting these wins on the board, getting this kind of exposure and experience to property, and I'm saying to her, hey, you got this money just in your account, you should do this. This money needs to work for you. And it's not, because you're only getting paid like 5% interest from these banks, when it could be doing so much more and getting that growth. So she's like, okay, but she doesn't have enough serviceability behind her to do it herself. And with the prices everywhere in the country going up, she needs quite a big deposit or, to be able to do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I can go in half with you. Let's do it together. Yeah. So she can get that, start growing her wealth. And she wasn't comfortable doing that with commercials. I'm like, hey, maybe I'll get another one of those, bakeries or those retail ones again. That's done well. But she's like...
It is, but then you need less deposit. That's the benefit of residential. You can get away with a very small deposit. So that's why we're doing that strategy for
That's
her.
right. Yeah. So we thought, well, this is a good exposure for her to experience this stuff. It's a bit more safer. It's a bit more, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into more, and she gets it more, and it's more comfortable for her because, if she wants to, she can fly down there and work on it and do something with the painting and landscaping. She can get her hands dirty and learn from that way. So.
Yeah. So I was hoping for this podcast because we had a property for you that we were about to buy.
Yep.
However, we actually just crashed on it.
We did.
Which is good in itself because we're actually telling you to crash. It's basically saying we can do better here. Let's find something else. And that's actually okay. To walk away from a deal is probably the most important thing.
And that's what solidifies my trust, like with you guys. Like, I know I just sound like I keep banging the Palise property drum, but it's like I haven't been paid or anything to say any of this stuff. But I'm just built on
You've actually paid us, which is the funny part.
True. Actually, I have. I actually have paid you guys, so get that. But it's the fact that you guys actually telling me to back down on a deal, and it was coming from your decision. Because I like to, when I'm saying it, when I'm dealing with you guys, is I like to say, well, I don't know because I'm not you guys. Like, I know Lego. I know how to sell Lego. I know digital advertising. I know SEO. I know Google Ads. I know how to set this stuff up. That's my expertise. Whereas your expertise, you guys are property. You guys know more than me. Who am I to sit there and tell you guys what you should do for me in a way where that's what I'm paying you guys for, to tell me what I should do. So the fact that you guys turned around and went, hey, we did the building and pest and some of these things came up, pretty major issues that probably need to be fixed. We reckon we should back out of the deal unless they'll drop the price or we can do something, which they wouldn't do. So, we think it's best to just turn this one down and crash the deal. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. I agree. And I like that you did that because it would have been faster for you guys to get the money and the commission for you as a business. Just get it done, move on to the next deal, which is great to see that you're not doing that. You're not rushing it. You're not trying to get the money, the wins, the quick wins and a tick on the board. See, I come from a sales background and a lot of it was pressured when I was in transport. It's like, get the deal done. How many accounts did you bring on in a month? It's like, hit the sales target. And it was just frustrating because you just want to take your time to do the right thing for the client. And I get that feeling from you guys.
A lot of buyers, I don't want to discredit any buyers, but like a lot of buyers, they are like that. They're transactional. Let's make money. I've always got the mindset, if you treat the client right, you get them back for number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. I'll make way more money in the long run. But it is scary crashing a deal because you've spent money on building a person, solicitor. But in the grand scheme of things, like having a bad property is going to cost you way more. Whereas we bought 2 great commercials and you've made 400, 500 grand in a couple of years. Like that's the main benefit.
Exactly. That's all right.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've got another property we're about to go in, but we won't talk about that until it's actually done. But
exactly.
So it sounds like the plan is get that one sorted for your partner. When we do the lease renewals on the other 2 commercials, get them revalued and then continue the passive income. Do you have any thoughts on where you see the future is at the moment? Because you're still young and still making money in your Lego business. Just keep accumulating, or is there a number in mind that we think we want to get to where we might ease back a little bit?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because like I am very goal orientated, but when people ask me what's your goal, it's like because you're trying to build your business and you're trying to get the growth. It changes every week, every month. So the target keeps moving. It's hard you can speculate, you can have like growth targets, but it's hard to gauge that because once a year goes by, holy shit, my goals have changed. So I've got to alter it. But I do have an ultimate goal that I'm first working towards, which is hopefully $10 million of assets, of property worth with 250 grand passive income from rental. So that's just like my base ultimate goal once I have that. And that's
a pretty good goal.
Yeah, that would give us options as a family, a growing family. So like, when we have kids and stuff where we can travel more and do the things that we love, and spend time on the things that we're passionate about and buy some of that time back.
It's definitely funny cheaper with commercials also. Even like the 2 cheap, I'm going to say cheapies for the cheap commercials you got. If those rents double in say the next 7 years and you pay that off in the next say 10 years, that's going to be it's going to be half your passive income goal. And it's just a couple little cheapies. If we buy another 2, we start getting there in the time horizon that you actually want.
Exactly. Like it did change my perception, because initially at the start of the journey, I was thinking, okay, I need like 20 properties, I need 30 properties, trying to like build how many properties. But then I'm like, it's not about how many properties.
Yeah.
It's about the return.
I think strategy is extremely hard for business owners as well, because you don't know if your business is going to be earning 5 times as much, half that year. It's hard, but it's a lot easier for our clients that is like, I don't know, a nurse and a police officer, whatever it may be, because you can kind of forecast wage increases where they're going to be. But for you, like, this is probably why your goals are changing as well, because you're seeing some horizons when, I can do this, I can increase the Lego sales.
Yeah. And like an interesting thing, like I've come across, like doing my last tax return, like as a business owner, it's interesting because you talk about depreciation reports and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, cool. This is, that industrial warehouse is a newish build, so its depreciation is going to be pretty solid, right? Be able to claim that against it. But I'm in the accumulation stage, and I want to earn as much as I can, not take away from my tax, my income. So it actually worked against me, the depreciation report. Whereas I wanted to show more power, and I'm like, holy crap! Like, it's actually dropped my serviceability, and I'm like, but it's actually not a loss. So
but it's giving you the capital for the extra deposit.
Yeah,
for instance.
yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. This is when a good accountant comes in, because they can kind of manage what they need to do.
That's right. But it's just interesting. You don't know about that sort of stuff.
You also don't have to claim depreciation. That's the thing that people don't know. You could theoretically ignore it, but again, we're not getting that because that's an accounting kind of question.
I think I heard somewhere that actually a mate of mine, I think Reese, he mentioned that you can backdate it up to 2 years or something. So you don't have to do it now. You can do it later and then do it. So I'm like, oh crap, I've already put all mine through. So
this is going to sound bad. My first couple residential properties, I didn't get a depreciation for like 2 or 3 years because I just didn't know. I was just like, and then you're like, I can get $2,000-3,000 back. That's really handy.
Exactly. I actually learned that from you, and I told Reese to do that on his other property.
Okay.
And he's like, depreciation, what is that? Depreciation report? Well, it's pretty funny.
But that's cool. So, all right. So we've got the 2 properties, hopefully get another 2 commercials. See how the resi one goes, and then I think we can probably just do another episode maybe in like a year or 2 and just see where are they now.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
A 4-year period.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be awesome.
But this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, especially because you've flown in for this as well. So
yeah,
really
no worries.
Thank you, Adrian, for being a co-host today.
Yeah.
No worries at all.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. That was awesome.
I appreciate it, man. Glad we got a good result for you.
Cheers.
See you guys.